and shovel this tunnel here. They would call it the main by those kids. And they would get 5-6 cents an hour for that money, folks. If you're one of $50 we're at Now, if I start talking too fast, because you know what we're like, let me know. This number 2 mine that we're going to visit today, folks, is one of 6 iron mines we have on Bell Island. 2 of our mines were surface mines, but the other 4 mines, including number 2 mine, we call submarine mines. And these submarine mines took a north-northwest direction, but the body or vein of ore was laid down back then on a 10-degree slope, and it continued to be laid down for 2.5-3 miles underneath the waters of Conception Bay. So, yeah, I don't like meters, so I'd rather say meters. And we can't get any further, folks, because water meets us there now, and all the water in the mine is fresh water. It's surface or ground running. Now, during mining operations, folks, any accumulation of water was pumped out constantly, and it hasn't been pumped out now since 1966, and that's when the last of the 6 mines closed on Bell Island. That's when we invaded Ontario, folks.
Why it was closed?
Too expensive process. Money is always the bottom line, don't it? Yeah. Well, folks, this number 2 mine that we're going to visit today opened in 1902 and it closed Christmas time, 1949. It was never modernized. And our miners back then came into these early mines with picks, shovels, dynamite, and drills. And they would start here in the center of the body of ore. And as they would drill, blast, and shovel this tunnel here, they would call it the main slope. And it would run right down the middle of the body of ore. And as we travel down this main slope, we're going to see the lights the miners used. And also, they had to get all the ore from the east and the west, because this is basically where all the miners worked. These openings were called cross cuts. We're going to stop and look into cross cut number 9, and we'll stop at cross cut number 11, and then we're going to go in to see where they kept the horses. And horses were used before modernization to pull the empty ore cars around the mines, and the miners would hand load them with their shovels, and then the full ore cars would be pulled up the main slope here on tracks by a cable system from the surface. When we come out of the barn area, we're going down to level 23, and that's where all the water is, yes darling, and up here to a display area, and then we all got to walk back up again. That's the fun part. Folks, do you have any questions? No? They used the room and pillar system of mining. Any open space, just like you're in here, is considered room, and the rest would be the pillars and walls of ore the miners left in the mine to support the mine. And actually, while they worked underneath the ground, they left 40% of all the ore in the mine for support. But when they started working under Conception Bay, they left 60% of all the ore for support. Now, 90% of all our mines are underneath the waters of Conception Bay, and it covers an area more than 70 square miles. So we're only going to see 1/10 of it. Yeah. It only looks like a lot. And we're going to... Now, folks, you're standing on the main slope off our number 2 mine. This is where the tracks were. This is where the full ore cars were being pulled off. Also here on another set of tracks, miners will get in their tram cars and will be taken to and from work as well. Now, the only wood support you're going to see in number 2 mine is what we have here. We're really close to the surface, folks. And we also got a rubber tarpaulin overhead to keep our visitors nice and dry. But the pipes you see on either side of the mine here, these are original to our mine and part of the system that helped take the water out of the mine when the mines were being pumped out, folks. So we're coming to the first type of lake now. Steel oil lamp, and that looks like a little teapot. And they would fill that with steel oil or whale oil, whatever was available. They put a wick in the spout. Again, they hung it on a canvas cap. And in front of that canvas cap, folks, there would be a piece of leather or a piece of metal with a hook on it, and that's where they hung it. That was dangerous, and that would last for about an hour and a half. All the overhead lighting you see today is about 30 years old, and under most of the gravel you're walking on, especially on the main slope, folks, are the original timbers from the railway. Lines connected to each other. So this number 2 mine here will take you to numbers 3, 4, and 6 mines, which is approximately 2.5, 3 miles west of here, all lit with candles, all shoveled out by hand. So as you come down here,
It's 2.3 miles.
Really?
Kahit the wall. 2-3 miles.
and if you don't want to go back home, folks, we can hide you in there. You'll never be found again. Can everybody have a little look in there? Yeah. The door is here into all the support walls of the mine. Now the ceiling is rock, and the floor is rock. And this body of water, our number 2 mine, folks, is 17 feet high. But you know, this is the shortest or smallest mine we have. For in the other submarine mines, these bodies of ore were 30 and 40 feet high. And we sold almost 80 million tons of Bell Island iron ore, folks, and we sold it all over the world. But we got 2.5 to 3 billion tons left today, and it's all too expensive to process. We sell it for $2 a piece, though. we'll never sell it all. Folks, do you have any questions?
It's rock and cold.
Yeah, this is the ore for these. Yeah, this is the ore. Folks, we're at crosscut number 16 now, and in here is where they kept the horses. And the horses they used to pull the empty ore cars around the mines were draft horses or Clydesdale horses. Now, the other horses were used mainly to bring supplies to our miners, but folks, the horses did not live and die in the mines. They would rotate them out of the mines every month or so. But in order to bring a horse down into the mine, they would have to blindfold them so as they wouldn't be scared or skittish. You gotta come back out of there, come back out of there.
Someone is going there, so we.
What?
I think someone went there. No.
Yeah, that's another tour. We're gonna go over there after, my darling.
Yes.
Gotta keep you up here with me. In order to bring a horse down into the mines, folks, they had to blindfold the horses so as they wouldn't be scared or skittish coming down the main slope. They had to walk between the railway ties. But when the month was up and that same group of horses had to go back up to the surface, they would put a different blindfold on them. And that blindfold then would help their eyes from not getting any more damage to the light on the surface. Remember, they're down here in the dark. Each day then on the surface, so many folds of the blind would be taken away. And when the horses were rested and used to the light, they brought them back down again. But in 1950, folks, they started to modernize the mines, brought in electric trains to replace the horses. Then people bought those horses to work in their fields. Big, beautiful, quiet horses. And we had between 80 and 90 horses altogether in the 4 submarine mines. Folks, do you have any questions? No? And this box you see here, folks, is an original artifact to our mine. This is a box that held the grain or the oats for the horses. And you know, folks, when our miners built boxes like this, they made sure there were no open seams in them. And that would possibly try to keep some of those friendly little rats out of the horses' food. And there were lots of rats in the mines and lots of rat stories. Miners and rats became friends. Miners fed the rats the last little corner of the slice of bread they had. Their hands were so dirty the miner couldn't eat it. But the miners knew if they saw their rats run around and try to leave a certain area, it was time for them to leave as well. Folks, do you have any questions?
Why is that?
Oh, because the rats would sense if there was a shift in the earth or danger. Yeah, like the rats leaving a sinking ship. I don't know what horse that belongs to, though. I don't even want to know why it's there. So let's come down to see Tony. The site of one of the original stables in the mine. The stalls have been reconstructed about 30 years ago, and you can see they're falling waste of time as well. This guy's name is Tony, and he represents all the Clydesdales and the draft horses. But sadly enough, folks, the names on the back wall here are the names of the children who worked in the mines. And folks, those children started as early as 9 years old. They were called nippers, and they would clean up after the horses. They ran errands for the company, and they picked rock from the ore. The big pile of tailings you saw outside the building as you came by, a lot of that was picked by those kids. And they would get 5, 6 cents an hour for that money, folks. If you're one of 15 or 16 kids, and we had a lot of large families on Bell Island, several of 21 children. You didn't have to worry about going to school back then. You came down and you got that little bit of money to put food on the table. And when they got the money, they brought it home and gave it to their mom, because you know what happened if they gave it to their dad. Too many temptations. Now, finally, you're about 650 feet underneath the ground on a 10-degree slope. There's almost 200 feet of ground over your head right now. When you go out, if the bus is parked to the north, look over and you see Martin Burley for that 11-year-old. Now, anywhere in the mine, a miner got killed, they would paint the white cross on the side of the mine in memory of that miner. We won't see any white crosses down here. The miners referred to the sides of the mines as the ribs of the mine. So when you heard, especially in school, another cross on the rib today, we knew what had happened. And miners got killed in the early days. That's when most of them happened. One little rock that fell 17 feet did quite a bit of damage. No hard hats back then. Drillers drilling into holes where the dynamite didn't blast away the night before. Miners got killed. Yeah. Lots of accidents, lots of sad stories, lots of good friendships too. Yeah. I can tell you a sad story. Get it right in my head. The mines on Bell Island are on the north side, but the ore was shipped from the south side where you got off the ferry. So one of the ways to get that across the island was the 20-ton Euclid truck. Now this was in the 50s, not in the early days. And they had trouble with all those Euclids, or 20-ton Euclids, whatever you call them. The transmission used to go in them. 2 miners were bringing a load of ore across the island. The transmission went, the truck went over an embankment. One miner got out alive, the other one didn't. In the meantime, the company that operated the mines here had a little information magazine out once a month. And they sent the man who worked for that magazine down to cover the story. And the man went down, and the man that died, the young fella that died, was the man's son. Oh. Lots of sad stories, folks. But you can only imagine. And nobody here drinks. 3 of many jobs in the mines, and all with high levels of danger. This man here had the most dangerous job in the mine, and he was a face cleaner. Any wall of ore you look at, folks, if it's in your face, it's a face wall. And they would come in after the blasting was done, and with an ordinary crowbar, they climbed up on the scaffold and picked all that loose rock that didn't fall from the ceiling and the sides of the mines after it was blasted. And by the time the miners came in, folks, it was much safer for them below. And over here, we're going to try to get it upstairs. I don't know how. Yeah.
What is this? I want to know, like, do they do underwater that mining?
No.
Oh shit, this is a cave, man. I'm sorry.
Right, inside cave, yeah.
So marking the
inside
cave,
mine.
lost his life.
That is, the water was still 23, right? And there were total 200 corridors, so
Exactly.
they explored this. I don't know, they have gone there for exploring or just to clicking pictures. This.
Yeah, right.
Ah.
Next. This is an adventure, man.
Yeah. किधर जा रहे हो भाई? अच्छा फोटो भाई, ये नाम ही ऐसा क्यों रखा है इन्होंने? हाँ ना, अरे सस्ता है रे, 995 स्मॉल फिश and large fish is 16, 3 pieces उसमें.
I really hope there's something.
You think, oh, it might be something good, but
I really hope there's something underneath. Jasa.
हो गई.